What's up, everybody? That's right. I got to make, yeah, he's over there. Okay. I don't even know which side people. So he's over here, right? I got a guest tonight. That's right. I told you we were going to. Don reached out to me like, hey, man, are we still doing this? I'm like, yes. So he stepped up when I failed to send messages out, but that's all right. We have Mr. Don Rufener the third on tonight to talk about, as you guys probably guessed, Bristol. So, Don, brother, you were one of the biggest stories of Bristol, and there's a reason why I wanted you to be the first one on to talk about it. Tom going back to back to back is a big story. We're going to talk to Tom. That's pretty awesome. But you did something, well, I don't think anybody else has done before. So you win the C main, go through the B main, into the A main, and we're running really well. So that's why we had Don on here tonight. But Don, let's start this off before I get too excited. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you drive.
I'm Don Rufener. I drive a Chevy Cavalier from Yearsville, Ohio. My home track's Bristol Speedway.
All right. And because I always forget this, and we are making a point to not do that anymore, I want to make sure and ask early. So the 007 Chevy Cavalier is so hard, dude. I keep wanting to say Eclipse, by the way. I like the whole time. That's all I've been able to think about, which we'll talk about why you switched. But who helps out on that machine? Sponsors, family, friends. Who helped you put that car on the track every week, and who helped you get it to Bristol and get it up in victory lane?
I got to thank my wife for sure because she puts up with all this and lets me do it. My daughter, my mom and dad helped me out a lot. I got my buddies, Rich, Zach, John, Andrew, and anybody else who comes over, hangs out in the garage, and just helps out.
Sponsors.
We got Sugar Valley Meats, Premier Pharmacy, Boulevard Lanes, Stanley Racing, my rap guy, 331 Custom, Mike Stone.
Awesome. Yeah, I usually need to like remind people that I'm going to ask them that, because like if you ask me, I'm going to have to sit there and think for a second, and I need to make a cheat sheet, and I need to try to remember to tell people that way they can put a little cheat sheet, because I usually end up forgetting like one or two people. So
I got asked the other day about that, and I'm like, I think I'm forgetting somebody, and it's hard. It's hard to remember everybody right on the spot.
yeah, and it really is. My favorite move in racing is the look back in victory lane, where guys are like, so we got like because I've done it. Like I've not to brag, I've been in victory lane quite a few times. I've been interviewed. I still have to do that sometimes, and it's nothing personal. It's just the heat of the moment. You're like, I just got done racing, I won, and they're like, all right, so tell us about people, and you're like, who are people?
I did feel like America didn't really give us much time to talk on the mic to thank anybody, and everyone from my crew, I wouldn't have been up there at all because they helped get that murder in what 2 hours? What is even 2 hours? So that was they got me there,
I also have, and I should have. This is a bad preparation on my fault, and we'll see. Maybe if you guys see me messing around with something here, I'm going to try. I have a video. I was up in Victory Lane when you came up there, and so I have a video of how you got to Victory Lane. And so, actually, I think Top Row does too. So maybe we'll pirate theirs for a minute, because it was the Top Row Racing Media C main. So Lewis did sponsor the C main. So maybe I'll borrow his video to show it, because that's the fun part about Victory Lane, is that Don didn't drive to victory lane. He got pushed to victory lane, and I thought that was pretty cool too. So yeah. And then we got, so Zach Marshall says holler boys are here. I'm assuming that Don knows what that one's about. Oh man, Charles, you're gonna have to explain this one, because he said, sorry Jack, Chucky's back. Charles is he was underdog for like the 4 or 5 years I've been doing this, so I think maybe he might have switched the car up, and now he's Chucky instead of underdog. And then our favorite Australian, Mr. Ben Ferris, says good day. So, which, by the way, hold on, Ben, this one's for you. Just a second, bud. I got my backpack, which has all my camera gear, and I know this looks terrible on camera, and you thought I've been prepared, but I forgot, and so never mind. In my backpack somewhere, I have one of the little koalas, Ben. So Yeah, so he went to Bristol. Unfortunately, I was busy and didn't get time to put him in the car. But I did take a koala to Bristol with me. So, all right. So let's start this out. You guys got down there early in the week because you ended up setting up camp at the campsite up above the drag strip, right? So what day did you guys end up driving down into Bristol?
We got there Monday.
Monday. And then somebody brought your car down, correct?
Yeah, my parents hauled my car down. They showed up about Wednesday.
Gotcha. So the campsite, I've walked up there. I walked up there one time, and then I took the forbidden path back. I don't know if you noticed off to the one side there's a little path that like is barred now. You're not supposed to go down there. We jumped the fence and we went down that way. I do not recommend it. It's very steep. My legs were burning. You guys were probably seagull about it. But like I've been up there. That's a really really awesome view. So how was camping up there though? Like how was actually having a camper up there and camping up on that campsite?
It was a good time. Monday was real nice, and I think was it Tuesday or Wednesday it got real cold and windy, and it kind of made it a little difficult even hanging outside the camper. So we kind of hung inside the camper a little bit, but it was real nice. I mean, it's paved and it's everything you can ask for, really.
Now, did they have like water and electric hookup and everything up there too?
Hooked up water.
Yeah, like it says, I have stood up there, but I didn't know how it actually looked. So just for giggles here, what I was doing real quick, let's just share this just for a second. For those of you that don't know, this is the campsite that we're talking about. So this is Bristol, and then this on top of this, it doesn't look like it from this angle, but it overlooks the drag strip here. It's this campsite up here. So were you parked on this back row or were you on one of the side ones up here?
We was right on top of the hill. So if you look down, you're looking right at the drag strip.
Nice. So that like top row going kind of left to right up there.
Right above the bathrooms and the showers and all that.
Nice. Nice. So what did they charge you to park up there, by the way, to camp up there?
I think it was around like 600 or something like that.
Okay. I mean, not too terrible for hookup and showers and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the cool part is the campsite. You overlook the drag strip, and you can actually see like the drag strip if you're up there. So if they were racing on the drag strip, you'd actually be able to see. So and then for those of you that were curious, these were our pit stalls down here. So these were where we were at for pitting. And then unless you were like Gossers and Jennings, then you were like all the way over here. But and so yeah, there's the just the campsite. So yeah. Rob Lewis says, "What's up? Best world's fastest quality." Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't race. And what's up, Delaney? So if you guys have any questions for Don, by the way, you go ahead and throw them out there. We are going to talk for just a little bit, but go ahead and throw them out. So so we show up early for the camp. We take our family vacation, bring the wife and daughter down in that. So I'm assuming that we had some fun there. Did you bring the daughter? I'm assuming you brought your daughter along.
Oh, we actually kept her at home.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I assumed wrong. I didn't catch that last part. The microphone acted up.
I said we thought it'd just be a lot for her, the camper, and just little space and stuff. So I fell in love with her.
Gotcha. Yeah, we just picked up a camper this last fall, and my kids are super excited to use it. But my 6-year-old would definitely be more understanding on days and that when they can't run around than my 3-year-old would. So I definitely understand that. So yeah. Now, car gets there Wednesday. Obviously, we're not doing anything until Saturday. So what were you doing in the interim? Were you just hanging out with the parents, everybody? Did you guys go do anything fun like Wednesday and Thursday there?
We took one day, went to Gallenberg, and the rest of the time we just kind of hung out the track. And we went to the Michael Waltrip place on Thursday. We was going to scale and just mess around with the cars on Thursday, but it was so cool. We just said nope.
Did you bring your own scales and that to mess with, or were you hoping that like the VCTS ones would be set up?
No, I had my own scale. I take them anywhere I think it's going to be a big event like this or anything.
Gotcha. Yeah, I Granted, I don't own scales yet. I'm gonna end up buying Earl's scales from them, the ones I've been using. So maybe that's why I don't take them everywhere. But yeah, I just it's one that's like I understand it, but it's still foreign to me when guys take scales to the racetrack. So I'm always just a little curious. So. All right. We will we'll get to the tires after a bit with American Racers and Hoosiers and Jay. Don't worry, we'll get to Jay. Jay's asking, what advice would you give to somebody going to Bristol for the first time? Yeah, we'll talk about that one in a little bit too. So yeah, we'll talk about that one in just a few. But because you do have a distinction. You were part of an exclusive club with me and Harvey Yoder there for a minute, which you've actually continued it even more so, I believe. But there for a minute. I think so. We talked about this and so much has happened since then, but you have raced every pavement race. And I know you were there at the first dirt race. How many of the dirt races did you go to as well?
I ran the first dirt race, and then I ran the National Touring Series dirt race.
Gotcha. So, yeah, that first dirt race, you, me, and Harvey, and I remember back now, like we did remember you after a minute because somebody brought it up, or you even might have said it. But there for a minute, we were the only three that had raced every front wheel drive race. And then the next year, the second dirt race, you and I didn't make it, but Harvey did. And so Harvey had that distinction. And then for the national race, Harvey didn't get an invite, and you did. So you've ran the same amount as Harvey, and you and Harvey are tied for the most front wheel drive races. I'm one back, unfortunately, and I'm sure there's another one or two people who stepped up in those second and third dirt races. So unfortunately, I'm not too special anymore. But yeah, you've ran the dirt and the pavement. How much better is the pavement?
Oh, pavement's a lot better. They take out too much of that banking with the dirt. And I don't think the speed is there.
No. I love my dirt guys, and like I said, that was a lot of fun. I really am glad I did that race, but I'm gonna pick on them every opportunity I get when it comes to the dirt and the pavement on Bristol, because it just, that was one thing I was glad that Pete got to do, because he went and ran the dirt. He ran the XR event on the dirt, and he was talking about it was fast and this and that. And I was like, brother, it's not the same. And then talking to him after he ran pavement this last weekend, it was the same kind of deal where he's like, no, it's not even close. It's not even close. I'm like, yeah, it's just like I'm trying to explain to my dirt guys, like it's just not quite the same.
The only thing I didn't like about the first dirt race is it kind of seemed like a money pit kind of thing. Like, no offense to anybody, but I spent a lot of money. I mean, camping, racing, tires. It just seemed like a lot. Then we got one day of racing. I took a whole week of worth of work and then re-raced on Saturday.
That week was where we coined the phrase publicly positive. So yeah, I don't I'll be honest. I think there's two or three people that are pretty high up with the people who promote that event that don't like me very much, because I've been pretty vocal about how poorly we were treated that first year. And then and honestly, I thought that they kind of learned something, and the next year they did a lot better by us. Yeah, the first year with not letting us out, canceling our day, but letting other people go, and bumping us as well. The super lates needed extra practice time. Meanwhile, you do the math, and the front wheel drives put $100,000 into that event, and yeah.
Yeah,
And then to have a bunch of announcers like the Bang Bangers are out here. Watch this, guys. They're just going to tear each other up. Yeah.
I think as many cars that broke on that Saturday, I don't think we could have ran 3 days.
I think less cars would have broke if we'd have had a lot more opportunity.
A little better too. That track got real. We was like last one's to race on it, and there was holes I could have laid down in.
Yeah, by feature time, it was really, really bad. But it's, my example is the next year when people knew they had 8 opportunities to race in, people didn't have to go a lot crazier. And honestly, I would even say the pavement this year at Bristol was a little bit like that, because like with qualifying, like you were so screwed if you didn't have one good qualifying lap this year. And the last time we went, I'm pretty sure we used a couple different practices and stuff. Like practice and qualifying felt a lot more edgy this year, just because we didn't have 3 practice sessions and then qualifying. You had 1 practice session and then, get after it. So speaking of qualifying, So we go through. I assume you parked the car Friday and went through tech and all of that since we could. So you roll in. So because I'll be honest with you guys, I'm about to learn all of this too. I know Don did a bunch of stuff to this car this weekend. So walk us through. You park Friday. Walk us through from there to first practice Saturday. What all happened from Friday parking the rig to Saturday when you go out for practice in the morning?
So I got practice, and I was kind of stuck in track there for a little bit, and I was able to open it up and be myself, and I broke a lifter. I knew it went down on a cylinder or something. So come in, you just gotta wait and finally get out to your pit to check it over. And we're trying different things, changing solenoids and all that. Then pull the valve cover and we find the lifter broke. Okay, it was easy to fix. Put another lifter in there, put the rocker back on. We thought we was good. Well, we got for qualifying, and I'm like, I gotta get at least one good lap here. Like I probably should have took it easy, but I'm like, I'm just gonna go hard and get this first good lap in before
Right.
something. Well, right first corner off again. So I just kind of like took what I could, and it was definitely on three cylinders. Still qualified at faster than 10 or 15 cars, something like that. I counted. Not bad.
So we go out to qualify. Rocker pops back off, which I've been in that boat with a neon. It's amazing how losing one valve will murder power. Like it's crazy. Um, so we just hang our foot in it and try to qualify basically on three cylinders. Because at that point, what else are you gonna do? It's not like you can pull off and get a redo.
At least some decent lap or some, like, if I can get further up in the C or the B main, I'm gonna try to get as far as I can at the front.
All right, so we pull in. We obviously know something's wrong, right? And now, mind you, we qualified at like 12:30, something like that, like 1 o'clock. Racing's gonna start at 5:30. Like we're supposed to go down for the features at 5. So we know there's a problem, and we know we only got like 3-4 hours to fix it. So what's the chaos that happened next?
So actually, when I got out of the car and I kind of knew what happened again, and then I texted the wife and told her I was like, "Well, this is not good at all." And then she's like, "Do you want to change the motor?" And I said, "Yeah." And then they go, "We'll get everything ready." So I'm just sitting in the infield, and I think it was just 2 o'clock. So when I counted how long we had 2 hours. I was sitting in the infield, and that gate's closed, and everybody's just still practicing, and I'm just like, "Okay, we gotta hurry up. Like we gotta get back in there." But you can't. You just gotta wait it out. I was able to drive the car out of the pit, so that was kind of saved a little bit of time to have to get pushed or towed or anything. So that was nice. But the time I got back there, they had the motor out. The engine room was sitting there, tools were out. So we got up on jack stands and just hammered down on it.
Now, did you bring your own cherry picker, or did you have to borrow one from somebody else?
We actually brought our own. I was thinking about relying on somebody else, but I'm kind of glad we just took our own and it was sitting there ready to go.
Yeah, you guys that bring motors are the real heroes because I didn't bring a motor. I've never brought a motor. It's always been like, man, if we torch that, we're just gonna go home. So I am like, you this year, and then Gustafson the first year they came down where he literally scatters it the day before, Friday, and then they chase a motor, and his dad goes and helps pull it. And brings a motor from a junkyard and installs it just so they can go racing. Like I've always been in awe of you guys that do that. So bring your cherry picker, bring the engine, and it works out well. Now I will ask, why did you make the decision to change the motor instead of, like, did you know what was causing the rocker to come off, or were you just worried that it would happen again if you were to say replace it one more time?
I don't know if we had the wrong gear or something. I mean, thought we had the same gear as everybody else, but we got it from a junkyard, so someone could have changed it before we got it. And so I knew I had to change gears. So I was like, rather than risk throwing another lifter and just being done if it pops off, put the other motor in that we hopefully is going to not do the same thing. And we actually went to a lower gear just to help that situation.
I got you. So you change transmission at the same time, and if you're going to pull the transmission and all that to do, you might as well go ahead and just swap the motor just to make sure. Now, was the motor that you put in, was it because the way it sounded was, as you told me, that it was less power than the one you originally had. So was it like a junkyard, like a known good motor? So if you swapped it in, you really probably shouldn't have any problems.
The bottom end was just a junkyard bottom end, but I took the head to Napa and just got it cleaned up and resurfaced and stuff. But it wasn't anything special. It was put new valves in it, put new lifters in it, as stock cams. It was pretty much a stock 2.4.
Gotcha. So yeah, because that's when I show up, we've got the good motor in, and so that's always like that's my thing with like switching to a backup. Anything I bring is going to be significantly less, and so yeah, I was just curious if it was one. So it was one you had done the top end on, so you knew if you swapped it in that it should be all good to go. So how long did it take you to swap motor tranny and get it back in and get it running?
I think it's about an hour and a half or hour 45 minutes or so. We didn't have a whole lot of time.
It probably had to help being. Did you have the transmission already attached to the motor, or did you have to like pull the old out, use the clutch and stuff like that?
No, we actually needed I only have one aluminum flywheel, and then we just put everything.
Gotcha. Yeah, that was what I was curious. Just because that's one too of I've only ever had one good clutch, and so like I definitely couldn't take a complete setup. So yeah, sounds like you're in the same boat with the flywheels. So an hour and a half to swap out motor tranny with swapping clutch and flywheel. That is pretty impressive. So because Bud Kenny says he changed everything but the driver, motor included. So yeah, it sounds like quite the adventure. So an hour and a half. How long did so you guys probably had what, a half hour, 45 minutes or so before racing started after you got it all swapped?
No, actually, like right whenever we got it swapped, they were pretty much just wanting us to line up. I think I kind of made it a little bit late to lineups, but I made it before we got on the track. And then actually, like, when we got the motor in, it started. We went to fill the tranny up, and then it was leaking, and we thought it was motor oil, and we about to just load up, like we thought we were done. And then I'm like under it looking, and I'm trying to like see where it's coming from. It's coming inside the tranny, and I'm like, I wonder if it's just not the inner slave cylinder, because we've had issues with that before. I don't know why they're gonna have inner slave cylinder to begin with, but we drained the inner slave cylinder, just the whole slave out, and I said we're just gonna push it. It wasn't leaking. I'm like, we're just shoving in third gear.
That was actually going to be my next question, because that was so funny enough. You mentioned that, and it brought back. I've got a lot of things over the weekend that happened that I heard little bits, and it brings back memories. Because I heard over the receiver that they were, because I actually because I presented the B main, I actually went down with the B and the C main guys. I didn't have to, but I ended up doing it. But when I went, and I cruised over, and I heard him over the receiver that, the 007's coming. He's changing the clutch. They're just finishing up changing the clutch. They're just finishing up changing the clutch. It turns out, the clutch was the only thing that didn't get changed. But yeah, I knew that was going to be my next thing was what had happened to the clutch, because you had to get pushed everywhere. Once you got rolling, you were okay, but yeah, so that was the leak, was that you had the slave cylinder on the inside was going wrong, and so that was your leak, and that's why you had no clutch then, right?
Yeah, we had one. The only thing we could do is drain it out. I mean, and there's no changing the inner slave cylinder without pulling the whole tranny. So, and thankfully, the Boras was really lenient about it. They helped me get pushed every time I needed it, and I was thankful for that.
I even tried helping push one time. We were trying to get Don to after the C main win, to try to get him up out after the B, I think it was, or at one point to try to get you up without needing towed. And we're like, dude, just leave it in. Or I think it was after, I don't remember what point it was. But it was like, dude, just leave it in there and just hit start and roll it over, and because you'd start it up and try to match it into gear as you were going. And for those of you that never been to Bristol Motor Speedway, when you exit the racetrack, you have to climb a mountain up and out of the racetrack. And if you don't have it in gear before you do that, you're definitely not going to. So yeah, it definitely, you could definitely tell you were having some issues, because like starts and restarts, even you were in third. You weren't shifting from second to third. So like even the C main, I was kind of chuckling because I was, I didn't realize the clutch issues at first, but in the C main, I'm like, yeah, man, you can watch him get motored, and whoever was beside you, like they'd have you going into one. You guys might be pretty close to even, but then you'd hit the corner and you could tell how much farther you were going in the corner than they were. And you could tell that you were getting right back in the gas, because even if they beat you into the corner because of that straightaway, like as soon as the second half of that first corner came, like, whoom, there goes Don. And just the gap just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So were you worried at all on that last restart with only like 2, 3, 4 to go, knowing that you don't have that initial pull? Were you worried at all with that? Because I was like, dude, Don didn't want to see that, because there was a couple other cars that had made their way up to the front. I'm like, man, Don really didn't need that. He didn't want to see that. So was that anything you were worried about, not being able to shift?
The only thing I'm worried about is there's only 3 laps to go, and it's Bristol, so I don't know if someone's just going to run me over or take me out. I mean, you're going to do anything you can to win a Bristol race. So that's the only thing I was kind of worried about. I was trying to stay a little bit away from people. I knew I had the best car, or I assumed I had the best car because I didn't really see anybody around me. So that was my only thing. I was just worried that, and everybody ran clean. No one really rubbed us or anything. I didn't think we really got a scratch on the car other than front bumper a little bit.
Yeah, the C main really only had a couple big ones. Was and I don't know. This is not me being that whole publicly positive. I know on the start there was somebody that just, they claimed something broke, but from the look of it, they got real excited and made it 3 wide when they shouldn't have, and kind of got Bubba Kincaid real good. Or maybe that was the B main, the start of the B main, and then I know there was one that Doug Peters ended up getting caught, and the guy, Doug might have slowed up a little bit too early or a little bit too much, but the guy behind him kind of like, he hit the brakes so hard the car got super out of control, and he came up and got Doug. But otherwise, the actual B main and C main went off pretty cleanly. So
Yeah, I didn't know how hard to run because I knew I was out front. I couldn't really see anybody in my mirrors or anything, but I didn't know who was out there. Like someone else could have done the same thing I did, broken, qualifying, and it could have been a real fast car out there. And I kind of wanted to win it, So, but I didn't want to use all my stuff up because I knew I had at least one more race, maybe 2.
at least one more. You hoped for 2, right?
Yeah,
Now, go ahead.
that's my plan going in the big thing in the game. That's what I told him in my interview.
I had joked about it when I was live. Like I pulled up and I forget who I said next. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to run with you guys. We're going to go through the C and the B. I'm going to win me a couple races. And it was one. And I made the distinction even then. I was like, listen, guys and gals, like, if you think I care, like, yes, C main is a win at Bristol. Like I will drive this and I will do the Smokies burnout up victory lane if I win the C main. It don't matter. Like I ain't like every one of these guys should celebrate like they won the A main because they're winning at Bristol. So don't,
I can
what's that?
do burnout. I didn't have no gear.
I actually, it didn't hit me at first because like you stopped, because there was people in the way. Like Don couldn't just pull up, but you stopped, and I was like, oh, dude, he's gonna light him up. Like he's gonna light him up, and then they start like pushing you, and I'm like, boy, that's talk about edging. Like what the? And then then it hit me like, oh yeah, he does. Well, actually, I don't think at that point, I don't think I knew. I don't think I knew you had a clutch at that point. Like I had kind of guessed that you weren't shifting just based on not taking off and stuff. But I don't think I actually knew at that point that you didn't have a clutch when they were pushing you up. But yeah, I was like, man, this is because it was that probably had to be like the longest minute and a half of excitement of your life, just trying to get up there to victory lane. Now we started 8th in the C main, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Next after that.
go. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know exactly if I like the software is doing something where after I speak, it takes a second, at least in my ear, for you guys to be able to hear Don. So like if I do that where I'm like, oh, I'm sorry I missed that or something. Like I'm not trying to be rude to Don. I'm not listening. It's that I literally can't hear him. So like I just want to let everybody know that it's not trying to be rude. I'm trying to make sure that we actually get to hear Don. So just keep that in mind. So yeah. So again, I didn't catch that.
So we started 8th, and then Bubba got in that wreck with that other guy, and that actually moved us up to 6th place. So I'm thinking, we're going up there already without even doing anything. But I felt bad for Buck. I seen that coming, and it kind of I'd hate that for me.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that because he was behind somebody that didn't go as fast as he did, and he literally just jerked it to the middle and went up, and it was like he didn't realize he was passing somebody. And from where I was sitting, and I'd heard a story that something supposedly broke, but he then ran a lot of laps after that. But like he got up next to Bubba and got a little bit past him, like, middle of the door to his right front. And then it was just like he forgot somebody, he passed somebody on the inside and got Bubba. And it shot Bubba down and took it out. But it was like, first off, it was one where like I had thought they had established too that like you don't pass before the start finish line, and that guy was 3 wide coming out of the corner, and it was one where it was completely unavoidable. So yeah. So starting 8th, then 6th, and we've already witnessed some craziness right at the beginning. What's going through your head now? Mind you, they put that dude to the back. That's why Bubba was out and that guy went to the back. So that was why we were able to move up to 6th there. So we're starting 6th. um what is running through your head? Like, were you looking at was who was in front of you and knowing, knowing what you had before, if the motor's running right and stuff, like are you sitting there like, oh, I got this, like this is mine? Or were you a little worried you were going to get there, like, because you only had, I think the C main was 15 laps, 20 laps, like it wasn't 50 like the A. What are you sitting there thinking starting 8th and 6th before this thing gets going?
Oh, seeing that we there, I figured a little bit, and like let's not take ourselves out of this race. Let's if we got to finish fourth, third, let's do what we got to do, get to the next one, because that's the main goal. But we worked up pretty quick. I think it was maybe less than 8 laps. I don't even know what it was, but the holes kind of opened up, and we got up there pretty quickly, and then we could just stay out front and out of the way.
Yeah, I don't. It was a long weekend, so I'm not gonna lie and say how oh, so and so and so and so and so and so. Like I don't remember who was leading the first few of that. Because the other thing too is if you're watching this and you didn't really know it, the B and the C main are started straight up by times. So realistically, the idea is, especially in these situations where they transfer, the idea is that you give the fast guys that a little bit better opportunity to make the next feature that they barely missed out of. So when Don's starting 8th, those 8 people, those other 7 drivers were faster than him. Now, obviously, we've established Don had issues, but they were faster. So being able to say, we're just, because top 4 transfer, so it's smart to get there. But like, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody who's like, I don't remember who was leading. But it was one where I'm watching you move up, and the car handled so well, especially compared to the other guys. I don't know if it took you 8 laps to get to the lead. Like, you were up there pretty quick, and then once you took it, you were checked out for a while. It was pretty obvious that you you were faster than your qualifying time, and it was pretty obvious. Whoever was running, I think in second, was the same way. Where like they were clearly faster than the guys behind them, but not quite as fast as you were. So we get to the lead and we start checking out. Were you running it all out a little bit to try to put some gap on the guys behind you, or were you definitely watching your mirrors and kind of trying to adjust from there?
See me, I was just kind of watching a little bit. Wasn't trying to take it too easy because, like I said, you never know who's really out there because it could be another fast car coming from the back, and you know, just kind of watched a little bit and wanted to save my tires because we next race is within what half hour, maybe 45 minutes, whatever. We didn't have a whole lot of time, and just wanted to save our equipment for the rest of the day.
Yeah, they had you guys, Street Stock B main, and then B main. And so there wasn't this big, huge, you didn't have no hour, 2 hour to let everything cool down and all that. So now, did you adjust the setup at all, change the setup at all between practice qualifying and like C and B or anything like that? Or were you pretty happy with the way the car handled and just kind of left it?
The only thing I really did was after or not at the qualifying, at the practice. I got a couple of laps in practice. I took the left front down a little bit to kind of tighten the car up a little bit. And other than that, the rest of the day, I don't think we really had time to even mess with it with the motor change and just whenever I got back from the beam, I just wanted to car. That was my biggest thing. I think the only
Yeah, go ahead and do that one more time.
we checked that after B main was pretty much toe and just nothing bolt check that we could.
Smart. As somebody who lost some parts that failed, it's probably smart to inspect things after already running 2 features. So yeah, it was. I was just curious because, like I said, it was really obvious in the C main. On the starts that you were, different gear, didn't have the motor, but you were rolling through the corners. So it did handle really well. I got down to an 18.9. Was that in the B or the C that you got down to the 18.9?
18.9 was the B main. I think the fastest I went in the C was like a 19.6 or something. Like I said, we weren't really pushing all out in the C main.
Gotcha. So we transfer up. Now, just out of curiosity, did they change? Could you have taken like the win money and then transfer, or did you get the same money and you transferred? Because somebody was talking about, dude, I'd take the money and like I'll transfer. But I was just was it did they have it structured that way where you had to choose between the two, or did you get the money just for going?
They didn't even ask me anything, but I would have turned down $1,000 to race the A main. I mean, but yeah, I didn't. All I got was the A main payout for all that.
Gotcha. Yeah, you and I both, brother. Dad went up and collected the money. I don't even know. Like I've never gotten the money from racing Bristol. It's always gone to my car owner, so I don't really care about the money anyway. Just give me more laps. So yeah, I get it. So we start the B main, and the way they structured the B main is that the transfer guys had started the tail. So you guys are the last 4 cars. Obviously, being the winner, you're ahead of the other 3 guys. So you probably started 28th or so deep. So we're way deep. What is going through your head at the beginning of that B main? You've just ran the C main, got no clutch. You won, which is pretty awesome. Got to celebrate for a little bit. But we come back down and we're basically right back in the car. We're starting like 28th. The top 4 are going to advance. You've got a decent car. What is rolling through your head to start that feature?
Well, like I do, it's not easy to pass at Bristol. I mean, that's probably the widest track we ever race on, and it's probably the hardest track you ever pass on because, I mean, you're too wide. You can't just stick it in there, and otherwise you're going to jump 3 cars. So you got to kind of take time and be patient. Whenever the hole is there, but the biggest thing is time limit, because they do put that time limit on there. And then every caution, I'm just like, okay, let's hurry up. Like, I got about 20 more cars to pass, or and then there's 15 cars, 10 cars, all that.
So I'm glad you brought that up about how hard it actually is to pass at Bristol, because I've had people talk to me about that, and I actually don't know if that's something I've brought up on camera often, because Bristol is super wide. I mean, we do a 6 wide salute down there. We didn't this year for time, but like we go 6 wide from line to line. Like it's huge. Especially compared to like Barberton. Like I'm into Barberton, and that track is this wide, right? But the thing is that the bottom groove is the fast groove. You want to be about second groove to arc in a little bit. But if you're in the third groove, if you try to go outside and you are trying to make it 3 wide in the corners, you are so much slower in that third groove that unless the 2 guys underneath you are significantly slower for some reason, whether that's just what they got or, something, you're not passing them. And so if you've got guys running side by side, like I'm sure you probably ran into that situation once or twice. Like I've had that before when I ran well. And then, in 2020, when I had to start in the tail because I screwed up qualifying, like I was so frustrated because it's like, I am so much faster than these guys. Get out of the way. But there's nothing you can do because you're obviously not going to push somebody into the corner at Bristol for, 27th place. But yeah, like I'm well, for first, hold on for 27th, 10 laps in, like in the B main, people are going to look at you real bad if you do that. So yeah, but yeah, bringing up not being able to pass is definitely something. So lap after lap, how often were you passing cars? Were you clicking stuff off every lap? Because I'm not gonna lie to you either. I'm watching the front. I got Pete Doxey up here running, and we got Dylan Napier in Bud Kenny's car. Both these guys are good friends of the show. Look, I love Pete. I was hoping he could win that thing, but I kind of didn't want Pete to win that thing, so I didn't have to hear about how he won at Bristol and I didn't. Like I get it, like want him to do really well, but so I'm watching the front, and then all of a sudden, like the people I'm standing with, they're like, "There's Don." And you're in like fifth at this point. So like I up until that point, I don't know really what happened. So how fast were you passing these cars, and how quickly were you able to get up there to the front?
Yeah, I don't really know how it all even worked out. I watched Race America the other day, and I'm like watching myself in like 15th, and there's like 8 to go, and I'm like, how did I even get up there? Like, so I mean, cautions helped us. Cars fell out, that helped us. That's the only way you're getting up there. You're not passing 24 cars and 25 laps. That's a car a lap. You know what I mean? But I mean, most of it, I would say everybody kind of thought, and just kind of use patience. I mean, I've been racing for a long time, and I've learned patience over the years. I've been there where I wasn't patient, and it bit me. So I knew I had to be patient up there too. So it was tough. It was.
Yeah, that was it's so funny. Everybody's, you gotta be patient. You gotta be patient. You gotta be patient. And like you do. Like it's such underrated advice, especially at Bristol, because the B and the C, I've had the luck of running the A main every year. Like I haven't had to run the 15, 25 lap races. I've had that 50 laps. But even then, it's still like the patience to know, like you do have to wait until somebody gives you an opening. Like you can't just force anything. It's not your quarter mile where you can bump somebody, to get to the front. So yeah, it's and I can only imagine how, you're just like, look, dude, man, we put our head down, we put our foot in the gas, and we had to do what we had to do. So now that's Bill says that Don, you were wide open. Were you one of the guys? Were you able, would the car take it when you're out here running 18.9s? Were we flat footing it? Were we still having to lift? Like, how were you driving the car to go as fast as you were?
I'm pretty sure when I ran that 9, I was flat footed. Not very often did I flat foot it. I knew the laps were getting down there, and I was running fourth, and I wanted to win that race. I'm like, this would be really cool if I could win the C and the B. I mean, but most of the time I lifted because just to set the car in the corner. When you flat, you overdrove the car thing, and so I would kind of lift just to set the car up mostly. I could flat foot it though. I mean,
I tell people that a lot with my car. When I drove it, Lucy, my old car, I could never enter flat foot, and it wasn't a testicular issue. It was that initial turn, like that first, because that's the other thing too, is that it's so big, and it if you look at it on video, like it feels like you've got all day to kind of go in, but you don't. Like you're carrying so much speed, and you're trying not to scrub it, that you really do turn in. And my car would never have that initial bite. Like if I stayed in the gas, whatever it was loading or unloading, it wouldn't turn in. But if I would go like half throttle, it would catch and it would go like it needed to. So I know exactly what you're talking about, that initial bite, that initial turn in. Plus, I'm assuming too that you were like me, where I tell a lot of people, like when you're actually racing, you will not be wide open the whole time. Like it's not like you don't go out there in the B main and put your foot in it and never lift, because you're going to be behind somebody. You're going to have the air which sucks you to them, but then they're not going. So you would be surprised how much you're half throttle at Bristol as much as you are full throttle. So now, was there any moments in our run through the C and our run through the B, was there any moments where you're like, nope, this is it, we're wrecking, we're not finishing, this is it, this is the big Bristol one? Did you have any of those scary moments where something happened in front of you or around you that made you think you weren't going to get it done?
uh, I can't really call any moments in the B that was really like that, but that one 9 car lost that tire in front of me. I thought we were junking our car too with him. We got fairly lucky there.
Tatman, Aaron Tatman. I see. I didn't know that had happened. I seen Pete had lost like a right front or something. Like Pete was throwing sparks. And so I thought that was because of him. And then they're showing something else. And Pete's like, yeah, dude, the right rear come off of Tapman. I'm like, oh, okay. So, all right. So yeah. So you had your whole scary guy right in front of you loses the wheel experience too, except for me, it wasn't right in front. It was me that was in front. But yeah, which starting the A main, we were 7 laps in or so. It was lap 8 that I was leading because they went back and completed lap. I only finished 7. So it was lap 8 that I was leading. How close were you to mine? Did you get to see the sparks? Did you get to see the craziness? And by the way, thank you for not just slamming me in the door. I'm going to thank everybody I talked to that ran the A main because I don't know how I didn't get hit in the door. So thank you for avoiding me. But how close were you to see the craziness of when mine let go?
I think he was on. I don't think I really know what happened. I just slowed up. I think we almost avoided him, but that was almost.
Yeah, I was going into turn 3 when it happened. So because I missed leading the lap before by like this much. I watched Racing America and Ketron had me by, and I mean like the splitter on the nose had me. And now in the car I couldn't tell at that point. Like I knew going into turn 1 I had the lead. I had it handedly going into 1, and coming out I look in the mirror and he's not there, so I'm able to move up like we have the lead. And then we go into turn 3 and we had the lead for a minute. Like we did still have the lead for a minute, and there's a picture of my tire crossing the start finish line. So I would like Dan to amend the books and say that I did officially lead a lap just because part of my car finished. So yeah. Now third in the B main, correct? Because it was Dixon, Doxy, and then you. So who did you pass in those last few laps to go from 4th to 3rd?
We passed a 14 cars. It was a black Cavalier that got me into 4th, the transfer spot. We lined up beside him on the restart, I think. And then I passed the 8 car. I think it was like 2 to go, or right there before the white flag. And then I got to Doxy's door at the white flag, and I'm like, they can't just give me 5 more laps.
I will admit I was watching that very handedly, and that's why I don't remember who was in 3rd or 4th, but I do remember the last couple laps watching you and Pete just go to war, because it was like you got there and we're rolling, and Pete had himself a pretty good handful, and it was I talked to Pete afterwards and I really wish I had power steering. So I think Pete with a few to go was really feeling that no power steering thing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch, and I would have to look at lap times. I mean, you had the fastest lap time of that B main by a bunch, a couple tenths at least. So I don't want to take anything away from Devin Dixon, and I know you don't want to either. But I think if you guys would have had 5 more laps, even if it had been 5 more green, it would have been a really interesting race. I think you'd have got Pete, and I think you could have got up to him. But hey, we start 8th in the C, 3rd in the B. We transfer, so it's still like I don't think you're too upset about it, right?
Oh, no, I can't complain how the weekend went. I mean, I almost thought I was going to load up on the trailer, and I ended up racing 3 races. So.
From all right, guys, we're gonna have to push it in the trailer to pushing it up to victory lane. Like that's quite a difference in going on there. So yeah, it's hard to be too upset after that. So all right, so we go back, we finish 3rd. We get to drive out, head back to the pits. And that was the one we were trying to help you get out in that. And when they finally they were managed to get somebody to push you out there. Which they were mad at me because my car was parked inside, by the way. I mean, you seen where it was parked. And then, do you need out? I'm like, no, I'm good. They're like, you need a hook. And I'm like, no, bro, like, I don't need, like I'm here. Like I'm supposed to be in the A. Like, I'm good. Like, I think I had like 4 different people like, you need pushed out too. Like, no, like mine drives. Like, if I got to leave, I can leave. It's okay. So we go back. Did you happen to find anything on the nut bolt check? Was there anything suspicious? Tires still look good. Like, was there anything after the C and after the B that you had to hurry up and worry about or anything?
So actually, in the middle of the B main, when that one pileup happened, we went green, and my car just shot to the wall, and I almost hit the wall, just sparking. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is pulling on pit road, tire broken axle or something. So my dad jacks the car up and stuff, and he's like, your bottom motor mount came off. And I was like, hurry. where are we gonna get a wrench? I said, go to the modifieds. So my buddy ran over to the modifieds, got a wrench. They hurried, ripped it off, and thankfully that pileup happened because we had just enough time to get it off and get back on track. So we was one less motor mount on the car for the rest of the B main. So I was trying to get that back on before the A. It didn't work.
So at what point did you pull off then down to pit road? Because like I'm assuming that if you pulled off, they'd take your spot away. Was it in the beginning? Or was it like middle race and you managed to get your spot back because it was under caution? Like what was and listen, guys and gals, if you're watching this and like he shouldn't have got a spot. Okay, listen, I don't care what happened. I don't care if you got your spot back, should or shouldn't have, or anything like that. So I want to clear that up because I always get that confusion. So was it middle of the race, beginning of the race? Like I don't remember that whatsoever. And they all meld together. Like I wasn't involved in those pileups, so it's not as fresh in my memory.
I think it was kind of early. I don't really think I got my spot back, but I think a lot of the guys were just kind of hanging back out of the way because they were kind of they were there and just kind of like, not really wanting to be as racy as some of us. So I think that kind of lucked out for me right there.
Gotcha. So it was early enough that you still started, and obviously some guys had dropped out, guys and gals had dropped out because you were, it would pile up in first few laps and stuff like that. So yeah, so probably restarted like 21st or something compared to like 28th. And just, no hate to the guys that Don's talking about too, where they're like, listen, man, I made the B main. I'm at Bristol. I don't care. Like you could definitely tell the back 6-8 guys and gals, they were like, I would like time to stop if something happens, and I'm racing Bristol. And I've tried to tell everybody that the whole time, like, dude, just go and run your race. Like it doesn't matter where you finish or how fast you go. So yeah, so all right, so that makes sense that you got back up there quick. And yeah, Dad says, well, before the race you didn't need help getting out. Yeah, I needed some help afterwards. Definitely. So all right, so one less motor mount. Could you tell in the car with it then? If it was the sparks and the shooting of the wall, just like the mount dropped and was like stopping the car from moving. So after you pulled it out, we were still good, or could you tell and had to adjust your driving style once you lost the motor mount?
After we got the motor mount off, it didn't really bother me. I have mostly solid mounts, so I think it was okay without it. I'll put it back on here when I get the car going just to be safe. Which I don't know if that could have been possibly what put stress on the axle and maybe broke the axle eventually. But
that is true. That is something to think about because that's where we're getting next is the A main. We talked about the C main, we talked about the B main. Now we're in the A main again, starting deep because they took 30 cars, 36. I mean, they took a lot into the A main. And then we had provisionals and we had transfers and so, I mean, we started, I think 40 or 42 cars. I mean, you had to start what, 36th or so, 38th back there. Do you know where you started the A main?
Oh, I've been the second to last car because they actually started the provisionals in front of us.
Gotcha. So we're starting like 37th. So, because somebody correct me because I think the 41st and 42nd, the last two provisionals were for previous A main winners. Steve was in, Bo was in, and Tom was in. So, and those were the only, we'd had 4 races. Tom won 2, and those were the other 2. So, so I'm pretty sure that we didn't fill the 41st or 42nd. So we were like 37th or so starting. No motor mount, 37th, and now we're in the A main. So these are all the faster guys. When you start that race, when we're running our warm-up laps and stuff like that, what's going through your head at that point? How far did you think you were going to drive that Chevy up through that field? Like, where did you think you could do after 50 laps after running, 70 laps already?
Well, after the B and that my crews like told me what lap time I ran, and they told me I was like, I think it was 3rd or 4th overall the whole day that we were sitting, which was, I was shocked, and I boosted my confidence a lot. And then, like I said, we had to start behind the provisional guys, so I knew some of them was a lot slower than me, and Devin and Pete and all of us. And I didn't want to run them over, but the one time I ran Bristol when I was going to be main and went to the A, I was kind of saving my stuff, and I ended up getting lapped, and that kind of ruined my whole rest of the A main. So I knew we had to just go. We could not just wait around. I mean, 50 laps or not, we needed to get up as far as we could without getting lapped.
Yeah, that's the other thing too with having 40 some odd cars. Like you can get stuck so far back, just by waiting. Because again, when you've got, sorry to mess with my light. I know this thing might die, and I realized that, so I went to plug it in. There we go. We're gonna stop trying to do this on the side and just call it out and do it. So yeah, because that was me in 2020. Was like I started like, and I've started on a provisional before. I used my golden ticket 1 year, so I've started deep. I've started almost 40th, and it's one where you get your guys from the middle of the pack back, where this is what they've qualified. They know they can't get the guys in front of them, and they can kind of stay ahead. And guys are getting at where they're backing off a little bit, and they're not running a high pace and stuff. Like, you can spread out so quick. So yeah, completely understandable that you're going to want to go. And I do want to point out, you went 18.900. I went at 1905, 1909, and a 1909. So you ran faster in the B main than I did the whole day. So yeah, so and in qualifying, you would have been third quick, because Jake went like a 7.8, Tom went an 8 something, and then Bo went a 9 something. So you'd have been third quick on the day at that point. Obviously, you got a lot faster because like Cascioli went a 7, Bo ended up going a 7. So like but you were still easily top 7, 8, 9 in times on the day with that. So I can definitely see how that helped your confidence. Now, how aggressive were we on the start of that thing? I mean, we're passing, Pete and all those guys, but all the mid pack cars, were we picking off a car a lap or two? I had my own things I was busy with, so I don't know how your A main how your A main went.
I think actually just followed Devin up, trying to, not trying to get my car through there, right there too. The toughest thing was they had that choose cone roll thing for everybody, and you can't see who's doing what when you're back in past 20th. Even honestly, even when you get to top 20, it's kind of tough to see where everybody's going. But so you just pick a random one, and hopefully you pick the right one.
Did you pick correctly? Because that was my issue in 2019 when I finished third. It just so happened we didn't have the choose cone then. It just so happened, I get put in a lane, and I was in the wrong lane every single time. I lost 1 to 3 spots every single restart. So we had some restarts. Obviously, I caused one. How did your choosing go? Were you in the right lane or the wrong lane for those starts?
I think most of the pretty good. We time, and we passed like 4 or 5 cars caution, and then the guy in front of me did not go, and we lost 5 or 6 cars again. So we was right back where we got. So I'm like, well, that didn't work out.
Yeah, the fun one you talk about is when you're back there with that choose cone. When I'm, because we do that a lot locally as well at a few tracks and stuff like that, and National Series does it. I really like that rule because it really does. There are certain tracks where the outside groove is better, and there's certain guys who are better out there in that, and like I do like that rule. And I think it's interesting too, because I've seen it where like the first 5 or 6 guys all choose the bottom, and somebody from 6th comes flying up on the outside and can either pass cars that they were having a hard time, or they end up with a good finish because they're a lot farther ahead than they should. So, but when you're and I'm sure you've done this too, where when you're sitting in 10th, you're like, all right, they're going to go low, they're going to go high, they're going to go low, high, high, high. Oh shit, I can make up 2 spots, and you pick it. But when you're in 28th, you can't see what the first 15 people did. So you're like, well, good luck to me. So,
Yeah, I
all
mostly
right.
try to pick the high side.
So, how many guys were dropping right to the bottom when you would be on the high side? Were people trying to fit in just as quick as they can, or were people kind of riding out there for a minute until because that's Bristol, the bottom side is the faster side, but the high side you can pass a lot of cars if you can make it work up there. So, was the high side working for you, or did you have guys in the way?
I kind of like the high side most of the time, especially the B main. The high side was perfect. It seemed like we rubber that track up pretty quick in the A main, and it gets kind of pretty rough. Actually, not gonna lie. I think the high side wasn't working quite as good in the A main as I would have preferred, but most of the time I hearing.
I think part of that goes to who you're racing, because once you get into A main and once you get past a certain point, you have guys that are 19.5 to 19.7 when they're slower. And when you have to go the long way around on that outside, it really does that effect takes place where you've got to be 4 to 5 tenths faster than somebody to make that pass quickly. You can do it over laps where if they give you the room, but if you want to try to bomb in next to somebody, take that space and stay there and be there coming out, like you have to be significantly faster. And I think once you just get to that point where, if you're running 18.9s, everybody else is running 19.9s, it's a lot easier to do. But when you get to where you're running a 19.0 and they're running a 19.4, like it's so much harder to pass when you get there. So that's part of it with the A main. Now I got to ask your opinion on it. You mentioned rubbered up. I had this conversation with a few people, and it cracked me up because we all know what happened to Bristol a few weeks ago with NASCAR, how they were chewing up tires and everything was wrong and everything was so bad. And during that race, I was getting messages asking what I thought would happen in the Bristol race for us. And Michael Waltrip, this was a heated discussion between myself and a couple other drivers at one point. And I said, hey, it was the resin they put down. It didn't mix with the Goodyears. It is not going to affect us because, first of all, our 795s, they don't care. Second off, it's been 2 or 3 weeks. It's rained. It's rained good. Like that stuff is going to be washed off. We've never really had a rubbered up track there. Your opinion, Don, was the track what it has been? Obviously, this is your 5th one of these you've ran. So was the track what it has been? Or was that resin still an issue for us? Like what was your opinion on the actual track and track conditions of this race for us?
I don't think the track is different from the years past. This is the best car I've ever took into Bristol, so I felt like I was able to go through the corners a lot better. My knowledge is a lot better now with setup wise, so that helps a lot. But I think the track was fine. I don't think we had any issues. I ran, I don't know, over 100 laps, and my tires look fine. I can still run them next weekend.
I would I'd be curious. I think I ran a total. I don't think I ran 25 laps. Because I ran 7 in qualify or 7 in the feature. I did go out. I did go out a couple times for practice. Like everybody's stopping and this and that. I'm like, dude, we're at Bristol. Like I'm going back in line. Like this is it's like free rides at the fair. Like I don't even care. Like I don't care if I get faster or slower. Like I'm just gonna keep going. And we keep going around. And in that last practice session, man, I'm behind Stark. The track is wide open in front of us, and we're about to have some fun. And then unfortunately, I think it was Honius was the problem, that he had his wreck and we weren't able to finish. But yeah, I just kept going around in practice, and I think I went out a total of 3 times. But even for that one was like, man, it didn't matter. Like we're at Bristol, and I still don't think I ran 25 laps. So yeah, a little jealous of the CBA as far as being able to actually to race out there. So now. So track conditions aren't any different for you. Did you notice any real difference in your opinion with the 795 on the left side? Because this is the first time we've had the 795 over there. Because I had that conversation too. Because like this year too, I agree with you with it. This year was the best car I've ever had. So shout out to my dad for letting me have that. But like I've gone 18.8s out there, and the car didn't feel as good. Well, we had that 790 on the left, and a few people, well, it doesn't really make it does. That 790 is so much better than the 795. So how do you think that affected you, or just in general? Like, do you think how much faster do you think you could have been if you'd had that much better tire on the left side? Do you think it was a big deal?
No, I don't think it's a deal. Going tires, so it doesn't really matter. It's not like somebody else has a 790 and I have a 795. I'm actually kind of impressed with the 795s. They seem like they hold up real good, and you might not have to buy tires every other week or every 3 or 4 weeks. But I don't think there was like I wasn't waxing, but I also didn't have built like a big motor either. So I don't know, maybe that tire helped having the small.
Yeah, that is the one thing with VCTS at those tracks is like I'd be really curious. I said this the other day, and I haven't been refuted about it. I think the air intake restrictor that they found in the A main was with the 42 car, and you could watch him go so fast down the straightaway. But the thing is that he'd have to lift, and the corner speed wasn't really any higher. Like we are, I think, at the limits of the corner speed, and I honestly would venture that obviously Mason went an 18.3 years ago with a 790 left and with an inch and a quarter. So like I'm not advocating that we open this thing wide up, but I think a lot of people would go no faster. I think they would probably slow down with more motor because they would have to brake and slow down in the corner. And when you get back in the gas, it would upset the car like crazy compared to just pulling her to the wood or lifting and getting right back in it. But yeah, the 795s, if everybody's on them, if everybody is on them, I think they're a decent tire. Like I like the VCTS is on them, especially the big tracks they go to. I've never had issues at Bristol this year, which guys and gals, if you're watching this and you had tire issues this year at Bristol, let me know. I know years previous, we've had some in the, like some right fronts that were chunking bad and some stuff like that on a few different guys. So I'm just curious if anybody had that this year. I have not seen or heard of that this year from anybody. So I'm very curious about it. But yeah, the 795s, if everybody's on them, I like them. They do last longer. The issue is that if you allow both, you cannot run a 795 because yeah, it lasts longer, but it lasts longer because it's way slower. My local track, it's 7/10. The first year we come back from Bristol, 2017, man, Bristol, as you know, man, 2017 Bristol, like, dude, the car handled, the car's good. Like, oh man, Bristol's such, it's so, I came back with a Bristol setup, Bristol tire pressures, the 795s. I was 7/10 slower at Springport. And you've been up here to Springport, I think, so that it's a little paperclip 3/8 mile, 7/10. And all I did was swap the 790s on the right side, put my pressures back in it, pick that 7/10 right back up. So yeah, the 795s are a good tire if everybody's on them. Now, how do you like the 790s or the 795s compared to the American Racers? We got asked that question before. I've never been on the American Racers. How do you like those compared to each other?
I've never actually ran the American Racers. I've always been told they were junk, but we've always just ran Hoosiers because that's what the Boars and NASCAR Touring Series runs.
Gotcha. That was like the second question asked, so I thought I'd throw it out there. I thought they knew something I didn't. I didn't know if any of the Ohio tracks that you race at down there put you on them or not.
I mean, we had the modifieds that have the American Racers and stuff, and some of the outlaw shows in Ohio, if it's open, you can run the modified tires on your 4-cylinders and stuff, and them guys seem to do, you stick them on there and they do pretty good, but I can't fit that under my car.
Gotcha. That would make sense. Now that I'm paying attention, I did, as you said, that I glanced and you can see where it says Racer for the American Racer on the mod on the back tire there. So yeah, definitely makes sense now. But I'm sure if if the American Racers all you're used to on the modified, it makes sense that you wouldn't really know the difference between the two. Because I hear that all the time. Well, all the time from a few guys that were racing on the American Racers out New York, Pennsylvania way. Dude, I really like it. It's this and it's this and it's this and then they got to run the 790 and then they hate the American Racers or something vice versa where they didn't know any better and then they know better and, now they don't want to go back. So yeah. And Berlin here in Michigan is actually on the American Racer. So I'm going to attempt this year, if I can make it happen, I'm going to attempt a shootout between the Cobras if they make a 14, or I do have a set of 13-inch wheels somewhere, but I'm going to try a shootout between the Cobras, 790, 795, and the American Racers. We're going to try a shootout at kind of a neutral track. I'm thinking maybe Springport or something to really try and see same car, same driver, same day, and go from there. So yeah. But yes, the Vors does run 795 for every race. So they have switched. They were 795 right side, 790 left. But they did switch a year or two ago to just all 795s. They just made it easier. And it's one where if it doesn't matter where they go, if they go to your home track, 795s. So I will absolutely give them that. Amado, hey, thanks for being a scammer. We are going to go ahead and log into here. Guys, do not click whatever link that is. That, my good friends, is somebody who is not worth the air that they consume. Just so everybody is aware. Yeah, I'll say it. I don't mind. The only thing they do is that they post links like that. And that's their job. That's what they do, is take money away from good people. So I'm going to switch over my account on Facebook and we're just going to go ahead and get right away from that. And we are going to block them. So guys and gals, listen, I'm just going to give you a heads up on Facebook in general. If you ever see a link like that where you can watch the race, which race, by the way, right? When you're talking, this ain't a race, right? Any link like that, it's a scam. Okay. If you give if you give any information to those people, guess what's going to happen? You are going to lose. I got hacked. No, you didn't, right? All right. So, all right. While I work on this one, Don, I gotta ask, modified behind you. Okay. Obviously, it probably is close in weight to the Cavalier because you guys have the same basic rules we do up here, which is like 2,400 pounds, right? For those of you who don't know that style modified, the engine is like, I think the rule is like 42 inches from the back of from the drive flange to the back of the motor. Like, it's insane how like the entire engine is behind the front cross member. So how how does driving like the modified at like your local stuff compare to Bristol in a Chevy Cavalier?
We actually run crate mode. I would turn modified any day over Bristol.
So let me make sure I heard that correctly. You would rather race the modified any day over Bristol?
No, vice versa. I'd rather race Bristol over the modified.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to double check because like you cut out that half second, right? You just had that tiny little cutout. And I was like, there's no way I heard that right. Like, there's no way a crate modified at like to the local track is okay. I just wanted to double check. I did just want to double check. So yeah, we don't have the crate motors. Ours are basically open motors up here. So you get guys with 6, 7, 8, 900 horsepower in them things. There's some fire breathing monsters. So they're great, but if you they're hard to watch sometimes. So like last chance race at Bristol is really hard to watch sometimes. So yeah, Brent said he heard the same thing too. So all right, I'm glad that wasn't just me. I'm glad that somebody else caught that too. I'm like, dude, he's sitting here talking about how he didn't care. He'd give up $1,000 just to run the B main, and he's like, no, man, I'd rather keep the mod local. Like, all right, I'm glad. So, all righty. So we used to race together, and you ran Mitsubishi Eclipses, first gen Mitsubishi Eclipse or DSM. I don't know if the actual, but DSM. A few years ago, you got rid of that thing, or do you still have it?
Yeah, I still have it.
Okay, why the switch? Why did we switch over to the Ecotech with the Cavalier?
The big tracks, we don't really have a whole lot of gearing options for the DSMs, and I mean even a big motor. I built big motors with them things. They barely push 200 horse with a big motor. So with these Ecotechs, they're like I think 175 stock, whatever, and our was stock about 200.
Yeah, the Ecotechs make really good power. It's pretty easy to make. It depends on who you talk to as to how high they make. But when you're talking local stuff for as far as affordability of parts and stuff, like it's pretty easy to put 180 to 200 to the wheels out of an Ecotech compared to like my dad's car. The motor and it's pretty big. I mean, it's 12 and a half to 1, and it's got some work done, and it's 207 unrestricted, and it's whereas Ecotech, their guys just bolting head packages on with like the 2.4s and stuff like that. So it is pretty easy to do. Katie had said, Katie Rufener there, the wife had even said, "Yikes, Todd, that's a sore subject for the locals." Hey, I get it. So, and my buddy Mike had to chime in. Modifieds are awesome. Yeah. Fun fact: Mike is going to be driving his Dodge Neon for opening night and not his modified. So just keep that in mind, everyone. Mainly because he was trying to do a little bit of maintenance on the modified and realized that not everything's where it's supposed to be because it's not. It's a little bent. So we're gonna get it fixed up for him. But Mike also does drive one of them. No crate motors up here. So Mike's is honestly probably closer to 600 horsepower. So and he has to weigh the same amount as my Neon. So that's the fun part of them is a small tire. So yeah. Now how much difference in handling was switching from the Eclipse over to the Cavi? Because like the Cavi, the big thing is that solid rear axle as far as making them handle and stuff. So how much was it? Apparently that was it. Is Plymouth Laser? Josh Beal says Plymouth Laser, and then Eclipse is a bad word around here. I got you. Ohio, the Eclipse, all the tourists. Okay. Took me a minute. I'm putting two and two together a little bit here. All right, we'll try to say DSM, right? But so how was the handling difference between the chassis?
They're pretty much the same because the lasers have the straight axle too, so it's not much.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, we just put the option in the cab.
Gotcha. So Ben Ferris was asking, what engines the Eclipse run? So I know, what one did yours have? Because I know that they came with the 4G63 non-turbo, which if you want to make power, the 4G63 is good. You just have to blow into it to really make power with it. So were you running the 4G63s, or were you running one of the later variants, or did you have the 420A or anything in it?
Yeah, we just run the 4G63s. When we toured, we would run actually the 2.4 bottom end with the 2.0 head. But when we were in local, we just had to run the 2.0 stuff because it's all stock and all that.
Gotcha. Yeah, the 4G64, I think, is the two. I used to be into the DSMs for a minute, so I kind of knew that, and then I got into all the newer stuff, and it changed. So yeah, yeah. So he had the 2.4 or the 2.0, Ben, because Ben drives a Mitsubishi, but his is a Strata, I think. What is it, Ben? I forget the exact name of yours, but he's got a big V6 in it. It's basically the Mitsubishi Galant with a V6 in it. So yeah. And Jordan says there's two modifieds out here: crate big tire and open small tire. The crate big tire cars put on a damn good show. Yeah, your modifieds and our modifieds are usually a little bit different. We have the Michigan, Ohio. We have basically, they're like IMCA cars on pavement, but with no motor rules. Unless you're running a crate, your class has, and so they're all stock front clips and stuff like that. So they actually are, like, I would give it to them. Modifieds are a really neat car. Like the car, Don has in the background. They're a really neat race car. Like the handling you can get out of them, and stuff is crazy. It's just because they're an open tire car, because they don't weigh very much, because they have a lot of motor, because they don't have a lot of spoiler. You either get amazing racing or you get caution after caution after caution after caution. And there was a long time up here in Michigan at my local tracks for me that, God, I was like watching paint dry. They'd get 2 laps into caution, 2 laps into caution. So I have this, like, I love the cars. I will go support Mike every chance I get, but as a whole, I'm not a big modified fan. So yeah. What made you decide to go modified racing? Because obviously you guys got some of the same stuff we do. You got street stocks, you got, late models, even stuff like that. You guys even got some of like our late models. So what made you decide to grab the modified?
I actually ran the outlaw late models at a local track a couple times. My grandpa has a few of them, and he got a modified and wanted me to drive it. I drove that for a couple years, and then kind of fell in love with it, and I got my own.
Nice. What crate motor is in it? Because I know there's a couple of them. So which crate does it have in it?
602.
Okay, the lesser variant. So I think those are what, 350, 400 horse.
Oh yeah.
It's a 602, man. I don't know. It doesn't matter how much it has. Everybody has the same one. So
We have pretty good racing up here with them.
yeah, it really is. And I'm sure you've been a part of this. There's nights where, like, the racing's awesome. Everybody's got it underneath them, and it's great racing because they're fast. Like, they're really fast. Or they're twitchy, and they can be a super handful to drive. So if you get a group of guys that just don't have it together one night, like, I'm sure you've been in a modified race where you're like, come on, guys. Like, am I right?
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
Yeah, I as my dad said, the mods are either a good show or they are not. Like, it really does seem to be, the two. Like, it's a good race or it's not. So you can come at me if you drive a modified and you're upset about it. That's okay. You're probably not watching this anyway because you probably hate front wheel drives. But you can come at me. That's okay. I think they're really neat cars. They don't put on the best show sometimes. So now we've got the Cavi. Obviously, we've had some success at Bristol. We're gonna chase VCTS a little bit more with it. We're gonna stay local, run the modified. What are your plans over this season? What are you thinking you're gonna do?
Oh, we have a national at our local May 11th, and we're gonna go to World Series the 24th, I think it is, and then we might actually try to find a Michigan track to up. 25th or something available. I don't think there's any races I can hit up until I think after June. I was looking at the schedule a little bit yesterday, but I do want to try to get a Wars race in because I think we can really keep up and compete with these guys, and it's a good group of guys to race with too. I mean,
Yeah, the VCTS they have a core group. They have a core group of guys. They don't race. A lot of them don't race locally. They don't run other series and stuff. And yeah, I try to be impartial, being the show that I am. And I like the national series. You're former national series champ as well, correct? But it's the VCTS. It is a little bit different atmosphere, and honestly, a big part of it is the racers as well. I mean, you've got 15 to 20 guys that hit almost every VCTS race, and it's a good group of guys. It's a good group of people. So yeah. And Anderson, have you raced Anderson before?
I've been at Anderson I think 2 or 3 times. I love that track. I'm gonna try to hit the one that 100 lapper up.
Yeah, I really like Anderson too. Like that's honestly, because Dad and I were talking before I had to work on his car more. And he brought up a couple times about, whether or not I'd want to race something else. I'm like, let's get through Bristol and figure it out. And honestly, Anderson was like one of the racetracks that I was thinking about because I've raced there twice now. I think twice now. I love that track too. It's shaped like Springport, so like it races a lot like my local track, but for as small as it is, it's so fast. Have you been over there for the sprint car thing? Like, can you imagine they start 33 sprint cars 3 wide and they do green flag pit stops in the figure 8 on that track? Like that's still like I've got to go get it done. Like I got to go watch the Little 500 because it's so insane to me having raced that track with compacts and they're running 3 wide sprint cars with pit stops. They're doing live pit stops with cars that don't have starters. Like, yeah, it blows my mind. Have you been over there for it? Have you seen any of the Little 500 or anything?
I've never been over. I'm pretty interested.
Maybe we should get together. So, hey, if you're looking for a Michigan track, though, I'm going to tell everybody. I will message you the dates, okay? Because I don't think this hasn't been like official, unless he wants to tell me that I can say it. I've got a buddy coming over from somewhere who's been over here last year that's coming this summer. I can message you the dates, and he's going to stick around for a couple weekends. So we might try to let you know that way you could come up and hang out with somebody from another country and get some racing in. Now the big thing is that if people come up and we have time, I'm gonna try to get them to put in other people's cars just to get some experience. So like we might ask to let them try the car out or something. So keep that in mind. But when he gets here, that's the thing is we're going to try to go racing. So I'll let you know when that is. You live close enough, you could swing up. We might swing down a little bit too. We're going to try to get him some good time in racing. So if you want to hit a Michigan track, that'd be a really good time to try and come up and do it. Is in that in that time frame too. So he hasn't got flights made official yet. So I haven't officially said dates and times when he's coming until like the tickets are paid for is the big one. So, but probably not hard to figure out what I was talking about. But yeah, so Dad says, get my car done, son. We have 2 weeks. I'm not getting anything done in 2 weeks. I got way too much other shit to do for my pressure wash trailer was going where I could make some money, Yeah. Yeah. Jordan says, I would love to run a VCTS race. It's never a short drive, however. What's the furthest they come west? What do you think, Don? Anderson? I would have to look on a map, Jordan, but knowing where Jordan lives, let's just say that west for us is not nearly west enough for Jordan. Jordan lives out in the Utah area. I met Jordan out at Madera Speedway out in California. So, in all seriousness, I would have to look on a map as far as where exactly, but like Anderson, Winchester, they're both in Indiana. I mean, that's about as far west as VCTS is getting is yeah. I mean, it's the difference between like 20 and 25-hour tow. Haha. Listen, I'm gonna throw this out there just because hey, just book flights now. So Mr. Ben Ferris, this is our breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Ben Ferris is going to arrive July 3rd and he goes home the 17th. So around the 4th of July weekend, if you feel like coming up, we're going to have Ben Ferris hanging out with us, and we are going to try to put him in as many cars as possible, even if it is just to go out and run a practice session. Because we didn't get no racing in last year, except for him and I went and did some go-karts. So we got a couple weeks. It's going to be the drier season. And the other thing is if you guys are local to Michigan or you want to plan for it, we are going to do some fun guy stuff with Ben too. So we're the process right now. What we're thinking about is because he gets in late the 3rd, or at least that was the plan. He's not getting into like 8 p.m. coming from Australia. So it's a big drive. So July 4th, I wasn't planning on, we're not going to try to put him in a car, but this is America. Okay. Like we got some freedoms here they don't have over there. So we're going to take them out. We're going to do some fun things that go boom, that are real loud. And we're going to try to show them some American fun for the 4th of July. The wife's given me permission so that I can not be with my family out at her dad's for 4th of July. So who knows? We might get into some bottle rocket fights, go buy some, big fireworks down in Indiana and have some fun. So Don, that's the time frame is July 4th. That the 5th, 6th, the weekend after that, stuff like that. There's a national series race on the 5th up here at Spartan. You've come up and ran Spartan, haven't you? Corrigan Oil Speedway, Spartan Oil Speedway, the quarter mile. Were you? I think you were up here for it one year, weren't you?
Yeah, I finished 3rd at Spartan one year.
I think that was the year I got taken out.
Yeah, that was a big wreck.
Yeah, that was me. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, we set fast time and we set yeah. That one still stings a little. I should have had that win, but what are you gonna do? I should have had the win at Galesburg too when I broke the car there and wrecked too. So yeah, there's a couple more I should have. So yeah, Ben says he's not coming until 5 p.m. on the 3rd. So we're not planning anything big for the 4th, just because I've been jet lagged before, so I know that. So yeah. He says he'll have to race around the campground instead. Wait, not just 4th of July weekend, Katie, the weekend after too. So we've got like the 5th, and we've got like the 13th or 12th or whatever, the next weekend too. We got 2 whole weekends. So you got 2 weekends, not just the 4th. So like the weekend after the 4th. And even though you'll be at a disadvantage with the crate, I'm sure like suspension chassis and all that wise, you're probably legal too. So you could tow the Cavi and the modified up. You could come up and run a few different tracks up here in Michigan. So I'm just saying, you could get so much racing in. All right, dream track. Obviously, we've raced Bristol Motor Speedway. Okay. You've ran some other big name tracks in that. What is an attainable dream track for you? Because like for me, like, man, I'd love to take my Neon down, race Daytona or something. That's obviously not going to happen. So what is a track you've always wanted to race a front wheel drive on that you would love to take and put it on that is theoretically feasible?
Yeah, we raced Bristol and we raced Richmond. I think Martinsville would be a pretty cool track. I don't know if we really want to get too much bigger than that with these cars. I mean, you're really kind of taking Bristol as it is.
I think that all depends on, because apparently Milwaukee Mile, I talked to quite a few guys up there, and they were faster at Bristol than they were at the Milwaukee Mile because the corners are so flat that you don't have any corner speed. And so even though you haul ass down the straightaway, you don't have any real corner speed at the Milwaukee Mile. So a little wild there. But Martinsville's on the top of mind. Like, man, we got into Bristol. It's like the same people, right? It's like, what do we got to do? Like, let's listen. All right, Dan, Steve, if you guys are watching, it's cool. We love Bristol. I'll go every year, but maybe, get us into Martinsville in 1 year, 1 year deal. We could alternate with Bristol 1 year, Martinsville next.
Good idea.
Listen, if I win the lottery, there'll be signs. Okay. I'm just saying, we might become a race promoter, but you're going to be like, oh, do you want to come run Springport? Nah, bro, I paid $500,000 to run out Darlington. So don't worry about it. Jet lag isn't too bad on the way over. Sleeping tablets and energy drinks will get me through it. Can't miss the 4th of July festivities. You're not, brother. Don't you worry. You're going to be awake for the 4th of July. This is America. Okay. I get the opportunity to show a foreigner how great this country is on the 4th of July. So yeah, we're going to do that. Kyle Keach says, any of you ran Eldora Speedway? What do you think, Don? Have we ran Eldora Speedway?
No. Every time they had it, I wanted bailed out.
I thought you were there last time. I thought you were there when me and Dad raced.
Um, if they do it, get there. But
Again, there'll be signs. Okay. I really thought the show went well last time for being a mix with the SCDRA and VCTS. I thought it went well. It went as expected. Like we had a couple good VCTS guys, but it was mostly SCDRA guys. But yeah, so Kyle, I have raced Eldora, but Don, who's raced a lot more dirt than I have, did not. Did not. So how many different dirt tracks have you raced, Don?
I'd probably 13 different.
How many how many pavement tracks do you think you've been on with traveling all around in that?
I've probably ran more pavement tracks than I think dirt tracks, but it's pretty close.
There's not the traveling series as far as Ohio area and stuff. Dirt, we don't really have a dirt traveling series as far as the Ohio-ish area. We got the Midwest series, which is more up here in Michigan, with Andy there. But yeah, it's not really, you don't really have one that's kind of centered around that. I mean, obviously VCTS isn't necessarily as centered lately with going down to like Ona and Nashville and Florida and all that. But yeah, there really isn't SCDRA Northeast. So I don't know. Maybe there's an opportunity there. Not for me. Probably not for Don. Don doesn't look like he wants to be in the promoter seat much either. But Zach says Bowman Gray. Bowman Gray could be a lot of fun. I think you could actually technically race with their cars, like the Carolina mini stock cars are legal to race with them. So I think you might be able to get away with it. I don't know how well they would respond to an outsider, especially if you're doing well. We've all seen the shows. So yeah,
I think I would like Nashville one of these years if they keep doing.
I can tell you that Nashville was interesting because it definitely didn't have the speed of Bristol, right? But it was banked a lot more than I thought it would be, especially with the way people talk to me about Nashville. I wasn't expecting it to have quite that banking, but it was fast. And it was I laugh still because I just kept telling Dad the car was tight, it won't turn. Like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. And then a picture comes out with my right rear in the next groove over, and everybody else's car's underneath them, and I'm like, it just wouldn't turn. So yeah, Nashville's still pretty fast. That one definitely, if you can get down there, and honestly, I think you can do. I think you could do probably pretty well down there too. So, is it anything you think might be in the cards for this year? Like, you think if you have a decent season that you've got a little bit of cash left over in at the end of the year, you think you'd be able to make it down there?
Maybe that'd probably be maybe one of the if I got a sponsor late in the season. Usually, like by the end of that time, you're kind of like getting burnt out from race season, so it's kind of like winding down. I would like to try to hit the Winchester race up. I've never been to Winchester either.
Yeah, that's who's that? Jordan says, I'd love to try out Winchester. I just want to go to a track where you can run the top, not just the bottom 2.5 grooves. Listen, you don't run the bottom 2.5 grooves at Winchester. That is the fun thing there. Yeah. And then so yeah, Winchester's definitely one. I've ran both. I ran Winchester in 2014. And then I ran Nashville just 2 seasons ago. But Bubba Kincaid is saying that you better come this year, could be the last, because I do know that Nashville is having some, they're fighting with the city and town and all that to keep it a racetrack and stuff like that. So I would say that is one that it's not that VCTS might stop going, is that the city might not let them continue. So one advantage that Nashville has is that it is late, like it is the end of October. And so the nice part about that is that a lot of times you can have a couple weeks off from racing at the end of the season, and then you'll find that you've got kind of a renewed vigor for a place like Nashville. So yeah, it's I would recommend it. I got lapped. I don't even know where I finished. I think I finished like 15th or 16th or something like that. Like I got lapped, but it was still a ton of fun. I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, how far away was it for you to go to like Bristol and then like down to Nashville and stuff like that? How far of a drive was it for you?
Bristol is about 5-6 hours, depending on stops. I think Nashville is pushing about 8-9 hours for me. So that's the hard part about that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not so bad when you can take the camper and hang out for a week and have somebody else bring the car. But if you're just driving down for a weekend and back, it definitely can be. That was with us with Bristol. We left at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night and drove down through the night. Dad did. So Katie says Don's birthday trip. Holler boys, what's your vote? So, and Andrew there says I'm down. So
might have to make it happen. That's my
when's your birthday, Don?
31st of October.
Okay, mine's the 26th. So it's not often you get to race on your birthday, is it?
No. Is it actually? I don't know what the date is.
I don't know what this year's date. So one of you VCTS guys, what's the date for Nashville this year? So the only time I have ever been able to actually run a race on my birthday, a stock car race. I used to go drag racing on Tyson Tune on my birthday for funds every now and then. Was actually 2014, and it was a World Series. And I was sitting. I'd set fast time. I'd won the fast car dash. I almost won the race of champions. We were sitting real pretty. And so the only race I've ever ran on my birthday, I broke the right front hub, moving to the front. I went like 15th to 6th in like 5 laps and broke the right front. So it's the only time I've ever had the opportunity to race on my birthday. And Zach Marshall says, let's roll. So look, dude, you got 2 votes already. So yeah. And Zach even says, Don, you better take Katie up on that before she books a camping trip. So there you go. Like, let's lock it in right there. Just listen, it's going to be a weekend in October. I'm surprised Dad might be looking it up. November 2nd. It's November 2nd. So it'll be right after your birthday. So just saying, it's like perfect. So now Cavalier, have you raced it on dirt? I know you used to the Mitsubishi. Do you run the Cavalier on dirt too?
We ran just that dirt race at Bristol. That's about the only dirt race we was going to plan to run with the Cavalier. But I thought about racing some of the Midwest dirt stuff, but I just prefer. I have more fun on the asphalt, and with doing everything with camping and all other stuff, it's hard to make one of those.
Gotcha. The reason I brought that up was Ben was asking, do you run the same car on dirt and pavement and just change a few things on it, or a completely different car? Because we brought up the dirt. It has been a minute since you were running dirt more often. So when you were doing that, did you have a dirt car, a pavement car, or were you kind of swapping between setups?
When we ran dirt car, after I kind of 4 or 5 years, that's when I ran my first touring race with, I think it was the World Series at Kalamazoo. And then ever since I did that, I was kind of hooked back on the asphalt.
Yeah, actually, that was the first time I met you and Jake. And so I don't know if you guys remember this, but I do. And this is I don't think I've ever told this story. It has more to do with Jake than you. And I don't know why. I just remember this probably because you brought that up. But it was the 2014 World Series, and back in the old days, guys and gals, there wasn't a lot of measuring sticks for racing across the country, because VCTS had basically just started actually traveling, and you had VCTS and VCTS North, which is now the National Series, and they put on the Vors Cup at the beginning of the year. And Kyle Stark came in, won it, but that was the first real race that was like a bigger regional or nationwide race. And so at the end of the year was World Series, because VCTS was kind of VCTS South, and the World Series was the VCTS North, or now the national big race, which is the national race now. And I remember, and again, this is just the way my brain works. This is no hate, so I hope this doesn't come across as being a hater on this. I'd seen a post that on Facebook of you and Jake were talking. And I remember Jake's car because it was the old style Cavi at the time. It was the old like square Cavi. And Jake was saying that you guys are going to come up and you're going to show us what's what. Like, let's go show those boys, right? Let's show them how we do it. And me being me back in the day, I could be a little cockier because I wasn't doing a show where I'm trying to be nice to everybody. And obviously I didn't post anything, but the running sentiment was, and this wasn't just you guys. There was a dozen people who had all posted this. And like, it's like, okay, come on, like, let's go. You guys about to see, like, we've been running VCTS, and I had a streak going at that point. I'd won a bunch of races at the end of 2014. So it's like, let's go. You got me and Irvine and Stark, and, you got some guys, right? Like, come on. Like, not that I doubted you guys as people, but like, I'm looking at that Cavalier, and like, it didn't look like there was a whole lot done to it. And it's like, I don't think you know what you're running into, but like, come on, let's go. And yeah, Jake got first couple practice sessions. Car was a handful. Yeah, he ended up wiggling around in practice, and it caught chain reaction caught my mom. My mom slapped the wall for it. And I remember after that, like, because you guys, I don't remember how far back, but like, you weren't top 10 in A main. And afterwards, like, I talked to you and I talked to Jake a little bit. Super nice guys. That's part of why I've never really like told the story, because it sounds like like, makes it sound like you guys are assholes and like I'm an asshole. Like, that wasn't it, right? But like, talked to you afterwards, and I distinctly remember, like, it was a whole of like, holy shit, like, we didn't realize what we were getting into. Like, you boys are fast up here. so that's my little story that I remember, was back in the day, was Jake, like, let's go, let's take these cars up there. We go show them what we're dealing with. And I'm like, I appreciate you guys coming, and I love the confidence, but we're about to see. And then since then, and here's what I want to point out, since then, Don's going C main, B main, A main, all the way up to 9th before his axle. Let's go, right? Don's won some races. Jake sets fast time at Bristol, has a beautiful looking car. Like, Jake's series champ, multi-series champ, Don's series champ. So that's why, like, I don't want it to make that story sound like I think they were a bunch of assholes and stuff. Like, they've done really well since. Things have gone great. And this was 10 years ago, but I still have that in my head. There's like 6 guys that I have that in my head of, that was the confidence level before you made the trip. It was slightly more than it was on the way home. So yeah, and I still, one of these days, I think Jake, if Jake comes up and runs, and I think Jake can win the World Series one of these years too. Like, he's got the speed, he's got the VCTS wins and stuff like that. So no hate at all to anybody, but I thought that was a funny one with talking about the World Series. So aside from Bristol, because obviously, right? Favorite track that you race on aside from Bristol?
Oh, that's kind of let's say Anderson tracks. If you go Wasso, I haven't been on a Wasso since they repaved it, but back when we used to all kind of race together and we ran there, that was one of my favorite tracks. I ran really well there.
You bring that up. Let me switch back into. I think there's a picture of you and I together at Bristol. So Thomas Stumpfig takes really great pictures, and he's been the photographer for a little while. And I know there's a picture of me at Owasso with the traveling series that I really like. It was the night I won. It was the first, when they did their first the Hell Yeah. And I want to say that the picture that I really like of it, you're in the background of it. And I know that's going to sound really goofy, and it's this is, guys and gals, this is how my brain works. Is suddenly a memory will pop up and I'll be like, oh hey. Yeah, so at least in these tag pictures, it's not right there. So I apologize for that. But yeah, Owasso is a lot of fun. I also have not been up there since the repave, and supposedly it's just as fun or funner. But yeah, because did you win one at Owasso? I know you had some really good runs up there. Did you end up, what tracks have you won on with the traveling series? I know we've gotten at least 1 or 2, right?
I finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd every time I went to Owasso. I won Madison. I won Lorraine with Nelson Touring Series. There's a couple more I won. I forget where we even were at.
Dude, I get the same thing. Like, I won 9 of them with VCTS, and the people ask me, I got to stop and think. The only one I know I won 2 of was Angola, and because for a minute that was a trivia question one time that Dan asked, was who was the only driver to win 2 races at Angola, and everybody guessed Mark Mason, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've won 2 races there. And so I literally messaged somebody like, hey, just so you know, the answer to this trivia question is me. And there's like 28 guesses, and everybody's saying Mark Mason, and then finally he guessed me, and they're like, yeah, you're right, you win 2 tickets. And I was like, so that was like Angola, I remember offhand, and that's a goofy thing. So Jordan says Anderson is 25 hours, Madeira is 15. So yeah, dude, that's because Jordan's in Utah, and dude, there's like a single track in Utah. Like it's crazy. Like how many I talk about how spoiled I am. Being in Ohio, I know there's quite a few tracks around you too. How many tracks are within like 2 to 3 hours of you from your house, Don?
I think we have 4. We have Midville, Barberton, Lorraine, Sandusky, Painesville. So 5.
Okay. How far is it for you to get to like Winchester?
I think Winchester's like 3.5 hours, 4 hours. Not too bad.
Okay. Not too terrible. Depends on how you do at the end of the night, whether or not it's an easy drive back or not. If you win, it's a lot easier drive than if you if you get tore.
Yeah, I went, but when I actually traveled the Boars race tickets, and I got tore up pretty bad, and it was not a fun drive back home.
Yeah, I've had a few of those where like you win, but it's a 6 hour drive. You're like, we can do it. Or, you get tore up and it's a 2 hour drive and it's just so miserable. So Jordan says his local track is 2.5 hours. The second closest is 4 hours. Bruh. All right. I'll throw you on the spot here a little bit. What is a track that you don't care to run? And it can be because like for me, it's Galesburg and it has nothing to do with the people or the actual track. I have zero luck there. I think I've only ever ran one race that I didn't wreck somebody, get into it, or not finish. Like Galesburg just hates me. So what's the racetrack that you were like, man, I don't like running there?
Mine would actually probably be Bristol Speedway. Bad thing about it, it's only about an hour from my house, but it's just too small for me, too flat, too slow. I like to go fast, and I don't like to brake real hard for a corner.
Yeah, I went down there. That's where I picked up the yellow cabbie. Yes, that project's still going on. And I went and watched the night of racing there, and they're like, "Oh no, dude, we extended the backstretch like 15 feet. Like it used to be like 15 feet closer." I'm like, so it used to be 15 feet wide, like. So it looks like it's a neat little looking track, and it's definitely one like that's the kind of I like bull rings. That's where I learned to drive. So like I think that'd be neat, but I can definitely see how something like that, like that's a big one. Is it's hard when you race big tracks to go to a small little track sometime. Like the speed just because like the next time, dude, I ran Bristol, and then like 2 weeks later, I was at a local track, or like the next week at a local track, and I'm like, this is just like okay, like I guess we're gonna do this now. So Kyle says he watched you. First time he's seen you was at Thunderbird a few years ago. And Katie said that was my favorite dirt race to watch him win. There you go.
Yeah, that was another series.
Yeah, Thunderbird's up. Thunderbird's up a little north of me, even. So, yeah.
Funny that them guys were trying to pay me to come back and race with them so I could beat the other guys.
My local track, Springport, we came back one year and it was autograph night. And I went out in Cephas time and went out and won the heat pretty handedly. And had a bunch of people come down from the grandstands like, dude, we're so glad to see you here. Because it was Aaron Taylor was out there racing the front drives, and they just had a lock on the place. Him and Dutch would win. His grandpa Dutch would win like every race. And they come out, these people come out of the grandstand. We're like, we're just so happy to see somebody else come out here and win and do this and that. And it's so great. Like, what would it take to get you to race here all the time? And I'm like, couple years ago, boy, we were hated. Like nobody liked watching this out here because we were winning. So I know that feeling, man. That's a great feeling when people are like, dude, you got to come back and win more often.
And I'll say that's one cool thing about Bristol too. I did so well, but everybody was happy I did well. You don't get that a lot around the local places. You do good, and you're like, get out.
Yeah. That's touring series stuff for you, man. That's what I try to explain to people. You've done it. You've done the local stuff, and you've done the touring series stuff, and I get the you get the hate from the local guys like, are the big motor and big money, and we're not NASCAR and all the travel and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys don't understand what it's like to drive somewhere new, race an amazing track, have a group of guys that genuinely want to race you, and like the experience of it. And when you're in the touring series, like the guys that are there, guys and gals, I don't want to exclude anybody. Like so often I get where like they're there to do well, and half the guys are there because it's cool. Like they're traveling, it's fun. And the guys that want to race well, they have the same mentality, a lot of them, that I do. Like, man, I don't care what you got. Like if I beat you, I beat you. Like I want to beat you because I'm better than you. Whereas locally, it's, well, he's got the lug nuts don't stick out far enough and he shouldn't be like, so yeah, it's the same feeling. So, hate is not around in the boards for the racers. Driver has to really be a tool to be disliked. I don't know. I've talked to some guys. I think there's some undercurrents sometimes. I think seasons go by where there might be some drivers that aren't as liked as that everybody thinks they are. But I think that's everywhere. I think that's just people. So yeah. All right. We don't have to wrap this up necessarily, but I do have to ask these questions before I forget. And I warned you about these ones. These are the only ones I warn people about. I need to know what your favorite memory in racing is, and then I need to know what your least favorite memory is in racing. And it's been a minute since I interviewed people, so if you're watching this for the first time, when I ask these questions, the least favorite and the most favorite memory, I do usually point out it does not have to be an on-track thing. So like Don could say something other than I won the C main at Bristol, which I'm guessing might be up there. But it can be, I usually give the example, man, when I was 8, like my dad used to take me to the races, and just that was my favorite thing. So if we say something that's not like necessarily a win or something like that, it's just with racing. Like that's what I want is your favorite racing memory, and then your worst one, because nobody ever asks about the bad stuff. Everybody asks the good. Like I want to know the bad stuff too. So what's your favorite and your least favorite memory from racing?
I'd say, my favorite has to be Bristol now. That we won at C main, and then we did everything else we did. I don't know my least favorite one would be. I know, so the 2020 Bristol race, we kind of had the same thing happen. We broke a motor, and we got one from another driver, Kyle Finlayson, gave us a motor to put in, and we were kind of in the same boat. We were the fastest car in the C main, shouldn't have been there, and my car just dead pedaled, no pedal, and so we were done. But I thought I was going to win that race, and that did not happen.
You would be surprised how many people the bad memory is the hard one to do. Like a lot of people really have to think about that one, because like Kelly Carlton was kind of the only one, and his were, he remembered a couple people passing away after wrecks, and those are pretty easy to stick in your mind. So yeah, I feel your pain on that one. 2017, I led final practice. Me and Bo were the only ones in the 18s. He'd win 18 like 9-2. I went 18-9-8, I think. And we were going to go to the front, and mine did the same thing. About 7-8 laps in, it just foot went to the floor, and I had no spring. It broke the throttle cable, broke the throttle cam off the throttle body. So I'm not going to take it away from Bo. We'd have finished at least second that year in the A-main. So yeah. Do you remember, by the way, how fast you went the first year at Bristol?
I do not. I don't think it was very fast.
I'm going to try to look this up. This is something that I might try to do for all of the Bristol guys.
I think we qualified like 19th the first year at Bristol. The first year at Bristol, we went down. We was having issues with the car running, and then we fixed it, and we drove up to like 6th or 7th, and then blew up.
Race Monitor should have this. U.S. Short Track Nationals, Dirt Nationals. The reason that I ask, and I know that this is one where like I've had a few people like look at me a little bit goofy for it, is I've tried to point out just how much faster we've gotten since then. And like people don't realize the first practice that we had with the front wheel drives. So Friday practice number 2, right? Based on lap times, fast time was Bo with an 18.827, right? And then I was down with a 19.249. I'm gonna scroll down here until I find you, Don. Got to scroll a minute. Nothing personal. 46th, you went 21.453. So you were 46th quick. And I want to point out that you were 46th quick out of 98 cars. We'll look and see. A lot of these have like 59 minutes. So we'll try to scroll up here. Best time. So 53 cars took time. So yeah, so you were 21 or something. Let's back this up to Let's go to Friday practice number 3, which was when I led final practice at a 19003, right? This is not for me to gloat, by the way. I mean, maybe it is, maybe subconsciously it is, because like part of me is like, listen, like you went faster than me this year. I got to one up you from a few years ago, right? But yeah, it looks like you didn't have a good lap because you went like 36 and change. So didn't have a good lap for the last practice. So, all right, so let's see group qualifying. Which group qualifying was very interesting that year because Chris Jennings, or no, yeah, because the way that the first 2 times were like unavailable. I went a 19.577 the first year, and there's a lot of data unavailable. So Don qualified 19th at a 19.857 that year. Okay. 19.8. I went a 19.5. Brother, our first time, I remember fast time in the first session of practice on Friday was 19.8s. Like Mark Mason, I think was fast with a 19.8. I went like a 19.9 the very first practice we ever had at Bristol. What you talk about experience at Bristol. The first year you went down there where nobody on the property knew what to expect except for like 2 or 3 guys that ran practice compared to this year. How much different was your mentality in 2024 versus 2017 going down to Bristol?
I think the first time we went to didn't know what I was really doing. This year, going into it, I thought I had a really good car, and I thought I was prepared for this year a lot more than in the past, and I wasn't. But I think the biggest thing with we all were just guessing. Oh, what's going on?
Yeah, it was so crazy to me that first year, just because again nobody had any idea what was going to happen. Like nobody knew if their cars would hold up or anything like that. So were you a little bit like me that first year? Like after the very first practice, I pulled up next to the trailer and I was like, we could put this thing right back on the trailer, drive 12 hours back home and I'm happy. Like, no, do not care, whatever. Like, this is amazing. This is the best thing I'll ever do in my life. And then after being fast every year since then is kind of, the drive home didn't feel quite as good after that first year. So going into this year was the same kind of deal where I'm like, man, I'm a holder wide open. I got a car. We're going to do this and that. If we go back again, do you think your mentality is going to change any? And again, big if, fingers crossed, we go back. Do you think your mentality would change any from having the speed you did this year? Obviously, thinking we're ready and the car not being ready, notwithstanding, but you as a racer, you as the mechanic and stuff, would your mentality change if we get to go back again, having had a really good year?
I think it's kind of the same. A little more confidence now that we did really good. This year was mainly thing was we think it's going to be the last year, so I just wanted to be able to race the race and not sit on the trailer, and that'd probably be the same thing. But now that we did good, I think we can really compete with everybody, and hopefully, if we do go back, we can lock it in the game main and actually race with everybody up front.
Yeah, I think I can too. I my issue from here on out is that I am forever going to be, like what could have been, that's the big thing. So I am just double checking. I am curious since I pulled this up. So you went a 19.288 in the A main. So you were 17th quick. So I got you a little bit. I was 11th quick with a 099. But the fast guys, Tom, Bo, if you're watching, I apologize, brother. I told you had the fast lap. So Tom went a 7.3, Cascioli went a 7.6, Bo went a 8.2, Jake went a 8.6. Austin Scott with a 8.9, and then Sean Bauer in the 25 went a 9.7. So your top 6 guys, all lap time wise, were in the 18s. So, and then you got, good heavens, then we got a 012, 018, 043, 093, 099, 099. So yeah, so 7th through 12th all went an O. Me and Carter start same lap times. We both went an 0.99. Shout out to Carter. So, anyways, what do you think? And I'm talking purely conjecture here, okay, guys and gals. I don't have any idea. We talked about this Tuesday. So, do you think it would be possible to have a racer funded front wheel drive race at Bristol? So I'm talking, we're like $250 entry fee. You know, it might be like $750 to win. Like the money isn't going to make sense. Like you're going to pay to play. Do you think we could get enough cars to fund? Because like you've seen mention like it's $250,000 to do this event. Do you think, your own personal opinion, that we could do this front wheel drive only? You think we could crowdfund this thing with front wheel drives only?
I think the only thing with the front drive only thing is going to be getting the fans in the stands to kind of make back whatever you got to spend to get there. I would do it. I mean, I'd spend $500 if it needs to be the entry fee, and I would take no payout. I don't care. I want another opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, I want another opportunity too. So, all right, I think that's gonna be the thing. I think everybody I talk to that goes to Bristol, I'm gonna ask that question. Like, all right, listen, like, what would you pay to go to Bristol if you knew that there was no payout? Like, what would you pay to go down there? And listen, if you're watching this and you're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why would you go pay $500 and not run for money? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're not my audience. Okay. You're not my audience on this subject. Okay. I get it. There's some of you that do not believe running Bristol for the prestige of running Bristol, for the thrill of running Bristol, is worth it. Trust me. I had a guy in the comment section of photos just talking about that. It's never worth it. Yes, it is for some of us. Okay. Don's one of them. I'm one of them. Like it's worth it. I didn't even finish. Had a pretty bad night. Still worth it. So, if somebody, say we get to do this again, you ran 5 times, because this question was the first question asked. You ran 5 times. You ran on dirt. What advice would you give to somebody if they did want to run this? If we do it again, somebody's never ran Bristol before. What would your advice be to somebody who's never ran Bristol before, heading up into a race?
I mean, the biggest thing I would say is check over the car. I mean, we can all check over our cars as much as we want. And I know you checked your car over and still had issues. I'd say do that. I would say if you can try to go hit up a big track, like a little half mile or something, or at least something close to it, I would try to do that before you hit Bristol. Because I mean, myself, I ran a lot of big tracks before I even hit Bristol, so that helped me a lot.
Yeah, we went and practiced at Salem. Now, mind you, again, I've got big track experience with Bristol and Winchester and stuff like that. We went and hit Salem the week before for practice, and it gets you close. Like you get a sense of speed. Like if you've never been on anything other than um like your little quarter mile or something like that, like it's your brain can't fathom the speed. Like that was the thing that I talked to a lot of people about. Yeah. So how many people did you give advice for this race? Because obviously with me doing the show, I get people that ask me, how many people were talking to you before this, with having ran before? Like, were you having some of your friends and stuff come in? Were you talking to any of the racers around you? I know you were by all the Pennsylvania guys and gals there was a lot of cabbies in the mix. Was there anybody there that knew people that you were giving advice to and talking to?
Mainly just came with me that race on Heidi. I think everybody else might have went to get advice from Jake.
I get it. You know, the guy sets fast time versus the guy that's got to start 8th in the C main. Like on paper, like it definitely makes a lot more sense, you know?
Jake
So,
helped me a lot, over the years. I kind of lean on him a lot, and he's always told me everything I need to know.
yeah, he's from that black 10 square cabby to where he's at now. Jake's come a long way. We'll have Jake on the show at some point. Guys, there's 100 guys that I want to interview like today, right? So Jake's one of them, to get him on with being a champ, with setting fast time, with a cabbie. Like that's the thing, man. In a sea of K swaps, driving Neon, driving cabbie, right? So yeah, he's gotten super fast. Like to keep a cabbie where he's at, like he's done really well. So yeah, huge shout out there. So they're doing some math in the comment section here. And Bud Kenny says we were next to Don, and we're just happy to help out when we could to get that motor switch. How much help did you get from outside? How much did like Kenny's come over and that? Was it all your crew? Did you have some outside help getting that swapped?
Oh no, Bill Kenny's crew jumped right in right whenever we were doing everything. They were throwing tools at us and they were doing whatever they had to do. I think they kind of stepped back there for a minute whenever we kind of got like, in rhythm. They didn't want to step on our toes or anything. But I don't. There might have been some more people coming in and out. I couldn't even tell you. I was just so focused on trying to get it done because I knew we were crunching on time.
Yeah, I understand. You get your head down trying to get it all ready. So yeah, Bud's doing a lot. They got the old BK Racing thing going on, and he's got to put an order in for some stuff, bruh. Just saying. Yeah, BK Racing, a lot of the Cavalier stuff and that. So do you run any of his products? You got any of the BK Racing stuff in that Cavalier of yours, or are you going to moving forward since you've hung out with them and now you know about it?
I don't know if I know I run a stops your steering controller, your race receiver mount.
Yeah, we were giving BK Racing the plug there. So we got hey, look, I got power steering controllers. If you guys missed it, I am gonna tell you. This is the part, Don, just for a second. Okay. This will be real short. These stuff didn't make it on the website like it was supposed to Tuesday. Yeah, we got power steering controllers right now. You can still go order it. We're the cheapest ones out there, but we will have tomorrow, after later tonight. We do have our mounts and stuff. Like, would this be nice, Don? Would you run one like that? It's got the, it's for your knob. Like you got the knob in a nice place. Like this one's for your roll bar. So, I got, some nice stuff coming. So yeah. The other nice thing I got neat coming that I forgot to warn you guys and gals about, I got some new dome light stuff going up. We got simple dome light coming up. It's got no switch. So it's all just wire. You hook wire up, the power up, and you're good to go. So it's got a slight redesign, a way that it zip ties to the roll cage. We might redesign it slightly more even yet. I got a better idea for it. But we also now have rivet versions. So this one, the camera doesn't zoom in. So this one has the rivets. We got them poking out so you can see it because they're made in black. The simple one will be available in the rivet one as well. These are going to be up on the website later tonight. This one does have the switch on and off. So yeah, we got those options coming up there too. So a bunch of different colors. Not all the colors are available for the lights because some of the transparent colors look like crap when you turn the light on. So not all of these are available in all colors, but we do still have like 20 colors. So yeah. So thanks for the natural segue for a second. Don, but Don, you've been running my stuff a while. I think you picked up one of my receiver mounts, the Bristol Dirt Race, like the first weekend I had one. So you've been running my stuff for a minute.
Yeah, I really enjoy the. They're really nice.
Yeah. And yeah, BK Racing, I know they got the they're doing the power steering controller stuff too. It's okay, cool. You can buy the motors from them as well. Like I don't offer the actual units. I just got the controllers, but they got the whole kit. But they got like the balance shaft eliminator set up for and manual tensioners for the Ecotechs and stuff like that. So we got some Cavi stuff. Reach over there, and we got Bud's reached out to me. We're gonna put some of my stuff on their website too. We've got, it's all my fault. Like I will take the blame. I was supposed to get him some stuff. It took a minute, and now I'm waiting for him to tell me what color. So there'll be some of my stuff up there too. So you can find it up there. Don't worry. We got some neat stuff. So I'm all for competition, unless you blatantly rip off my stuff, and then I don't like you. So anyways, all right, Don, who do you got to thank for this? We'll give you another shot here. We've been doing this for 2 hours, and I've heard twice now. I've seen in the comments it's past your bedtime, so I don't want to. Probably got to get up early for work or something. So I don't want to keep you too late. Is anybody else you want to give a shout out to why we got this thing going?
I just want to thank my whole team. Like I said, everybody that helped me out at the track. Actually, my tuner jumped in and did help out. I didn't thank him yet, Brent Sheffer. So if you need a tune for Cavi, go get tuned by him. But like I said, thank everybody. Track, that's the biggest.
Yeah, we mentioned there Brett for a second. Yeah, Brent, when I went down to Barberton, hung out with him for a minute too, and I got a shirt. I should have worn it tonight. But yeah, we'll be in touch with him. He's got the new shop going, Shrevler Tune. I just seen he posted a picture of him putting a new hoist in down there. So big shout out to Brent. And listen, I am all for the advancement of racing. So we are going to try this year to try to make some road trips and stuff. So Brent gets that shop up and running. Maybe we'll try to run down there and do something from it. So we can support multiple people who all do the same thing. So yeah, and there he is. There's the man. Jake Albright, Mr. Fast Time says Don is a badass driver. I told him on the backstretch after qualify, do not hang your head and get that engine changed. See, it's got to be that advice. It's got to be Jake telling you to get it done, because we go out, we change motor, we win the C, we almost win the B, we go out, do well in the A, all the way up to ninth. So yeah, I'm honestly, I'm so thankful you came on tonight, man, because I was legitimately, you and I have raced against each other for a long time. I think probably 2015 or so we started racing against each other. I've known you and your dad, and I've said it a few times, Don's the third. I'm a junior. And so like, it just confuses me that, his dad is junior, and like, it shouldn't, because it makes sense. Like, it makes total sense. Junior and the third. My son is the third. Right. So like, I get it, but I'm just used to the kid being junior. So like, I always screwed that up, but yeah, so like, we've hung out quite a bunch. We've had some good races, Owasso. I think you finished second to me at Owasso was the one. Like, we've had some good races, and I was genuinely cheering for you, man. Like, that C main, because I'd seen you posted the lifter on Facebook. So like, I didn't know about I didn't know you changed an engine. I knew you had clutch problems and stuff like that, but like, I didn't know the extent of what you did. But to watch you go through the field and run really well. And then the B main was the same way, man. Watching you, just all of a sudden, like, I'm watching this battle in the front, all of a sudden it's like, dude, Don's up to like sixth. Don's up, like, holy shit. And then watching you move forward, like, I wanted you as my first Bristol guest, because what you did in Bristol was one of the most impressive things I've seen in a long time. Just the amount of laps you turned, the poise you had, dude. You were making some good moves, but I don't think I've seen that car out of control one time. Like, it was under you. You ran really smart. I was just genuinely happy for the success that you had. Finishing like 11th or 12th, I think, overall, finishing pretty high up, all the way up top 10. I think it's well deserved. I hopefully am not the last person you talk to. I hope you get on a couple more people want to talk to you about what you did at Bristol. So I thank you for coming on tonight. Again, which I will say, I am slightly disappointed that the trophy is not in the background. I will say that. I almost mentioned it before we went live. I was hoping to see the trophy, like the gladiator in the background, just staring at me. You got the trophy, or did they got to get you one?
No, I didn't get no trophy. I didn't know there was a trophy.
I'm gonna have to talk to somebody, because they're supposed to be the gladiator and the sword, and the B and the C main, from my understanding, was supposed to be a gladiator, and then the A main gets the sword, because the sword is like the Bristol trophy. So, Don, I'll ask some questions for you, brother. So that makes sense. That's why you didn't see it.
Yeah, the only thing I can sticker.
I'm gonna have to talk to him. Hey, Devin Dixon, I know at least got a flag, because I gave him a flag, because he won the B main. So I gave him a flag. So, well, Dad did. Dad actually surprised me with. He's like, hey, I got this. We can hold it up, and then we can give it to whoever wins. I'm like, awesome. So Dad helped me on that one. So yeah. But thanks again, Don. I greatly appreciate this, man. If you're watching this and you haven't already, hit the like button. But Don, I'll give you the last word, my friend. Here, what would you like to say to end us off here?
Oh, thanks for having me, and let's just hope we can get back at Bristol next year.